Hello indie game fans, the roguelike genre is perhaps the most dynamic in indie games, with new contenders always waiting in the wings, and a lot has changed since we last took a look, so here are my picks for my current top 15. Now I have infamously not gotten on well with The Binding of Isaac or Spelunky, although I do admire them from a distance, just not my thing, but they do have to be mentioned in videos talking about the best. That being said, let's get into the list. 2020 was truly the year of the roguelite, with so many great titles that I had to mention, some of which are launching in 1.0 this year, but let's start with Ring of Pain. It's a roguelike card-based dungeon crawler, having neat mechanics tied into the rotating carousel of cards as the so-called Ring of Pain, where you have to strategize in order to progress forward. It's a nice change of pace from the roguelike deck builder formula established by Crypt, doing its own thing which deserves a shout out. I love the art and writing as well, and if you have not checked this out, I would implore you to do so. Another 2020 entry is the awesome UnderMine, an action roguelite that looks fairly typical like Isaac, but has a compelling progression system that would rival that of Rogue Legacy. Each dive into the UnderMine will net you some gold, which can be spent on a variety of upgrades from NPC merchants that you rescue, having progression in the form of permanent upgrades, unlocking blueprints for a chance for items to spawn in future runs, and so on. There are some great secrets to uncover, fun minigames, good combat and challenging boss fights, checking many of the boxes that I look for in this genre. The newest title on this list is unsurprisingly Skul the Hero Slayer, having been my number 1 pick of the month of January, and is an awesome roguelite platformer entry from a Korean developer. This has you playing as a skeleton warrior, fighting against humanity in order to save the Demon King, flipping traditional tropes on its head, and was of interest because of that. Our hero can equip a variety of skulls, each granting him a new form, having all sorts of classes from Death Knight, Archer, Samurai and Grim Reaper to more outlandish ones like Rockstar and Genie. These skulls are all upgradable as well, which unlocks new abilities and is parts of the meta progression that will keep you playing. Super compelling, super polished and great feeling action, this earns a well-deserved spot on the list, and who knows, may even rise up a couple of spots if it grows on me further. One of the so-called classic titles that I have to mention is Nuclear Throne, a fan favorite title for this community which still holds up to this day. Play as one of several different mutant creatures, each being wholly unique, and adventure in the wasteland to seek the Nuclear Throne. It's rather light on story but awesome in gameplay, where interestingly, ammo management is a central aspect. It does have its share of secrets as well, and despite not really having an indie games as a service model as with titles these days, this is still totally worth a play and usually gets quite steeply discounted, so pick it up if you somehow do not already own this. In reviewing and refreshing my list to incorporate turn-based titles, I had to push one of my favorites in Monolith down a couple of spots, but this bullet hell entry is perhaps the most overlooked title on the list, which I would highly recommend you pick up. While it looks rather generic and chose to focus the action on square rooms, the action is one of the best, with heart-pounding boss fights, interesting weapons and its share of progression and secrets as well. I like the hub area, where there is a blob cat NPC character that you can talk to, and this does tie into the progression as well. Since launch in 2017, a DLC pack titled Relics of the Past was released in 2019, adding even more content, so if you don't already own this, it's one to get. A revolutionary title that has to be mentioned is Slay the Spire, a title which I saw the potential of in early access and has only blown up since the 1.0 release in 2019. It has you climbing the spire through nodes on the map, with combat mixed in with shops and random events, and was the title to bring deck building into the mainstream. You need to optimize your deck, trimming the fat, and to build a highly efficient, combo-focused deck of cards, combined with the game-changing abilities of relics, which can give you the feeling of breaking the game, which is the best part. I believe Mega Crypt started as a 2-person team which has since grown to 3, although they do have their share of collaborators as well, but a very impressive piece of work from the team, and since launch, they have ported it to all modern platforms and added the 4th character, so I'm waiting to see what's next from them. 2020's dominance in roguelites continues with Risk of Rain 2, an absolutely massive title that has garnered a huge following and was perhaps the most often mentioned title in the comments of the previous video. A roguelite 3D platformer is not the most common thing that you see in this genre, having its gameplay roots from the original from 2013, where its transition to 3D is one of the best that I have seen. Add one more 2020 title to the list with Noita, a spell-slinging title where the physics simulation is the most important part. Play as a witch as you delve into the dungeon, wielding magical wands which you can craft to some extent, and go wild to see what emergent stories get told. For one, the physics alone is impressive, where water cools lava to rock, or evolving explosive gases can get ignited by a pool of fire, often leading to some disastrous consequences, which is always fun to watch. I would love to see this sort of environmental interactions incorporated into other roguelites, but in the meantime, this is a no-brainer for the list. I was quite amazed to find out that Crypt of the Necrodancer is actually the oldest title on this list, where the technically turn-based traditional roguelike has the elements of a masterpiece, combining your classic dungeon crawling action with a pulsating, feet-tapping soundtrack where you have to move on the beat. Sweet pixel art rounds off the package, and if you missed the DLC titled Amplified from 2017, this game is totally worth a replay as well. I like Dead Cells, but I don't love it as much as some of you, where this roguelike platformer looks great, has a compelling upgrade system, and most importantly, feels great to play. Like Slay the Spire above, this caught my eye while in early access and once again blew up after 1.0, where the success of this title did actually create a spin-off company of developer Motion Twin named Evil Empire, who are continuing to work on this game while the main team tries something new. Since launch, they have put out content patches both free and paid, including Rise of the Giant, The Bad Seed, Barrel So Fun, and most recently, Fatal Falls, adding new bosses, biomes, weapons, enemies, upgrades, and more, and is as close of a live indie game as we can get in 2021. The student has become the master in Monster Train, another deck-building roguelite which I feel has surpassed Slay the Spire. You have to defend the last pyre of hellfire from the angelic enemies, having to bring it on the train to rekindle the fires of hell which have frozen over. Rather than controlling one hero, you're instead summoning demons into 3 different lanes, where enemies spawn at the bottom and move upwards, with the ultimate goal of destroying your pyre which will end the run. I like the variety here, with 5 core factions which must be mixed and matched, each faction feeling unique and having some clever combos when merged together. Since launch, the developers have again been putting out free updates, including mod support, an update titled Wall Mutations, which allows for randomized modifiers, and even the Friends and Foes update, which added new heroes and bosses. The next update is a paid DLC titled The Last Divinity to be launched next month, so certainly look forward to that. One of the best games from 2018 continues to impress with Into the Breach, coming to us from the developer of an all-time classic roguelite, FTL Faster Than Light, but has you piloting mechs to stop an alien threat. It's a roguelite tactics title which is not that common, where there are no random roles like XCOM, but rather all the information is presented to you. What enemies are going to attack, in what order they are going to move and so forth, where you can push, pull, attack, or inflict status effects like a smoke bomb to mitigate their attacks. It makes you feel so clever, with an interesting upgrade system and an array of different units to choose from, all tied in nicely with a time-travelling backdrop as well.
And so, at last, the end of my beginning.
You can probably tell that I'm a big fan of Darkest Dungeon, the gothic horror roguelike RPG that many people have a love-hate relationship with.
And in that moment, I understood the terrible truth of the world.
First off, I love the art, positional combat, variety of characters and the town upgrading system, being an excellent representation of the turn-based RPG, but add to that the electrifying highs of defeating a boss and the crushing lows of having your entire party wiped with permadeath, and you create a high-stakes experience that's second to none. Truly a masterpiece in the genre. Of course, I have a close eye on the sequel, which should be launching in early access this year.
Something in the dungeon is restless. A planar door has been opened. A new dominion begins.
I did a quick poll on the community tab and was happy to see that the majority of you agree with me, since Enter the Gungeon is one of the best in the genre. Like Monolith mentioned above, this is a bullet hell dungeon crawler, but absolutely nails it in terms of theme, being all about guns. Now, putting America's weird obsession with guns aside, I thought that it was interesting to see a developer think of a theme and follow it all the way through, where everything from the weapons, character classes, enemies, bosses, environments, and even title are all themed around guns and ammunition. The puns are next level, from Gatling Gun, Ammo Conda, Beholster, and more, to innovative weapon designs like a gun that shoots other guns. This nails everything, making it a must-play. And of course, my and many other publications' Game of the Year for 2020 was Hades, the little roguelite that could and stood toe-to-toe and won against AAA titles. I think enough has been said about the godlike roguelike at this point, where everything from the combat, art, music, writing, and even user interface are top-notch. Awesome interpretations of great myths, an interesting central story, and actual adaptive storytelling in a roguelike makes it very well crafted, although I begin to see sentiment begin to turn on this game, citing a lack of replayability and secrets. However, I for one am actually glad to get a roguelite that is completable, so to speak, and is my favorite experience to date, taking the #1 spot. To see more of the big picture, check out these awesome videos, and I will see you after the jump.
Let's deal some death.